My name is Steve Gaudet. My friends and blog readers know me as Breathin' Stephen. I'm 62 years old, and I was born and raised here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have a very severe type of asthma, which is generally referred to as severe refractory asthma. And what that means basically is that despite taking tons of the standard medications used to treat asthma, I have symptoms all the time, continuous. They never stop. Oftentimes, those symptoms escalate into full-blown, life-threatening asthma attacks, which put me in the hospital, usually in the intensive care unit. I actually developed asthma as a young child, but unlike most kids or most boys, I didn't outgrow mine. Mine got worse the older I got. And the time I reached my late 40s, my asthma got so bad I couldn't work anymore. So I was forced to retire from my 28-year career as a respiratory therapist. I've been hospitalized 130 times for my asthma, and I've been intubated 35 times, which my doctors think is probably a world's record for someone who's still around. I mean, most people aren't that lucky to survive that many. The last visit I had to UCSF started the same way that it did a dozen times before that. I had an exacerbation that wasn't getting any better on its own, and I got to the point where I couldn't handle it anymore, so I went to UCSF. It always happens the same way. I have an exacerbation. I'm treating it the best I can at home. I get to the point where I can't handle it anymore, so I go to UCSF to the ER. When I get to the ER, they treat me with the standard asthma protocol stuff, which is lots of IV steroids, continuous nebs, and BiPAP. On this particular occasion, though, I was so sick that none of that stuff worked. So a few hours later, they ended up putting a breathing tube in me and putting me on a ventilator for a couple of days. What made this visit different is that when I came off the ventilator a couple days later, I was actually breathing pretty well for a while. But I'd say later that evening, I started getting really short of breath again. I could feel my lungs tightening up. So I asked the doctor on call if I could go back on continuous nebs. Instead of them putting me on the conventional nebs, the head RT, actually, the respiratory therapist on that shift, came to my bedside and told me that he thought that I'd be a great candidate for a new continuous neb system that they were starting in their adult ICU. The difference was apparent almost immediately to me. I knew that something was different about the Aerogen because I actually started coughing, which I never do during an exacerbation. I mean, a lot of asthmatics do, but I never cough. So this was an indication to me that the drugs were actually getting down deep into my airways where they needed to be. My first impression is this thing is so quiet. I mean, it makes no noise at all. And if you've ever spent time in a noisy ICU, you can appreciate, a quiet environment. It was pretty dramatic, actually. Wow, there's actually a therapy out there that works on me. I mean, I've been in the hospital all my life, practically, and they've tried everything. And for the first time, a nebulizer treatment actually worked on me. So it was quite a shock. In my case, I truly believe that by using Aerogen when I was in the intensive care unit, that it saved me from being re-intubated. I can't tell you how many times I've come off a ventilator, I feel fine for a while, I start getting tight again, they have to put the tube back in. And the more they do that, the higher your chance of not surviving, basically, because there's a lot of bad things that can happen to you when you're on a ventilator. And I truly believe that had it not been for that, for the Aerogen technology, that I would have been reintubated, and who knows? By then, maybe they would have thought, well, nothing's going to work on him or whatever, so I don't know. I was so impressed. In fact, the next day, I felt well enough to go home, directly from the ICU, mind you. So it definitely made a difference compared to the conventional nebulizer. The first line of treatment for severe asthma exacerbations is aerosol therapy. So knowing that when I go to the hospital, they utilize aerogen technology to deliver that aerosol. It puts me at ease knowing that everything that can be done for me to prevent my exacerbation from getting worse is being done. And that's the most important thing to me. Because when you're in the middle of a really bad flare, you don't know if you're going to live. I mean, honestly, that's how sick you get. You feel like you're suffocating to death. So just knowing that there's actually a therapy out there that's the best at what it does, and this hospital is providing it, that would put anyone at ease, I think. So I would definitely, recommend it. And I thank Aerogen for developing the technology for people like me.